Are you unsure of where to start when it comes to your mental health and therapy? You'll find out on this episode of The Stress Less Show. Hi, I'm Carly Myers, a stress management expert. One thing I hear day in and day out is that we feel like we've tried everything when it comes to stress management. But have we really tried to get to the root of the issue? Each episode, I bring on experts and leaders to not just put a band aid on your stress, but to actually get to that root. This month's theme is mental health. This is something that's slightly coming around, but I think we could get a little bit more going in the movement. So I'm excited to bring on a special guest, Ida Mae, to talk about finding your happy and finding the right therapy for you. So Ida Mae Devers has an MBA in health administration and is the co-owner of Philly Family Life Counseling LLC with Dr. Jean Devers, LCSW. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So we before the show we connected multiple times. I mean, we met months and months and months ago at I believe a talk that I was giving, and you came up to me after that talk and shared with me your story, and I was just in awe of where you've come from and the work that you're doing. So if you don't mind, I'd love it if you could share a little bit about where you've come from and where you're at now with our listeners.
Absolutely. Where I came from is a lot of serious trauma within my life, starting when I was a teenager. I am a survivor of rape and molestation. That started when I was 14. I am also a survivor of domestic violence. That happened with my first husband, and it all goes back to my rape and picking that particular person as a partner at that time. And from there, I'm also a survivor of a suicide attempt. When I was married to my ex-husband, I attempted suicide, not intentionally, but it was one night when things were really bad, and I just wanted him to stop. I didn't want to hear his voice anymore. And he had just had surgery and had some opiates laying around. So I took a couple, and I didn't go to sleep. I could still hear him, and I took a couple more. Couldn't go to sleep, and so on and so on. So what happened was I realized that, oh my God, what have I just done? Fortunately, I was able to call for help before he ripped the phone out of the wall. An ambulance came, took me out of the house, and then forced me through the hospital. I was not allowed to leave the hospital until I found a therapist.
Mm.
So that began my journey with therapy.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
Right? Most of us are like teetering on this edge, I think, of like, should I do it? Should I not? But you had this situation where it was like, I don't have a choice. I gotta experience this. I gotta go through this, whether I like it or not.
Exactly, I did. And, the only way they were going to let me go home is if I promised that I would go into therapy, and I had to sign paperwork stating that I would have a therapist, and I would notify them that, within X amount of days that I was in a reputable therapeutic relationship with a licensed therapist, not just somebody that I picked out to talk to, but a licensed therapist.
Mm.
So there began my search.
How did that, what was that search like, and how did that transform your life?
Not knowing what I was looking for. My first dive into therapy was not what I had hoped it would be. It wasn't what I experienced later on in life. I didn't realize that when you're looking for a therapist, you need to interview those therapists. You need to feel a connection. You need to feel comfortable. And I never felt comfortable with this person, but I went because I was ordered to. And I did everything that I was supposed to do, but I don't think she was right for me. And realized that being back home with my ex-husband, that it still wasn't working. I was going to therapy, but I wasn't getting fixed. Yeah. Because obviously when you're in that type of a relationship, you are the one that needs to be fixed, not him. Not anyone else in that relationship. It's you that's broken. And I spent a lot of years believing I was broken. So, and then after that, one of the positives that came out of that is I did realize that we couldn't be married anymore. His drug addiction, his alcoholism, his violence, I just couldn't deal with that anymore. And, finally told him we're done.
Hmm.
It took me 2 more years to figure out how to get out of it and how to save money when you're in that type of a relationship. They do not allow you financial freedom. Your finances belong to them, even if you are the major breadwinner in the family.
Hmm.
Your money is their money, not your money. So it took a lot of planning.
Yeah. And I imagine that, in that situation, finding the right therapist and getting the right support was really important. So interviewing and finding somebody that you click with is just at the end of the day, like you got it. Like this isn't just like any professional is going to work. Like there is no one size fits all. There's personalities, there's like
Absolutely.
types. I mean, you name it. Yeah. So what do you recommend for someone who is, struggling with their mental health? They're looking to find their happy. And I put that in quotes because I know it's not
Yeah.
grammatically correct, but you know, what is what do you recommend for the like first steps that they should be taking?
Well, one of the first steps is don't be afraid of therapy. Don't be afraid of a therapist. Don't listen to the old stigma that you're crazy if you're going to a therapist, because you're not. You're absolutely not. You're trying to find somebody who is professionally trained in various areas of mental health who can help you to get over and to learn about yourself. And if you're willing and you want to change anything in your life, it's such a positive experience to
Hmm.
find the right therapist that can help guide you to where you need to go. I mean, I would not have a master's degree if I hadn't been in therapy and had the support of my present husband telling me that you can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting too. Like for those of you who are listening who don't know, my backstory, going through PTSD, just and going through starting your own company, having a therapist, like I'm the first one to admit, like, hey, I've got one. Because
Abs-
we have to get to the place where this is where people aren't afraid anymore. Because at the end of the day, like I know you said you couldn't do it, like you wouldn't be where you're at without that, and I'm the same way. What else do you recommend for people who are searching for their happy?
Another thing I recommend is just getting out into nature, taking a walk. I do a lot of walking. I've always done a lot of walking. And I found that depending on where I am in my own head, walking out under the sky or walking in the city even can relieve stress. Sometimes at lunchtime, if I've had a rough morning, I will just go out. I work in Center City, Philadelphia, and I will go out and I will take a long walk around the streets or take a walk down to the river and then walk back to work.
Mm,
Um, I live close to Pennypack Park. I used to live in New Jersey, so I was used to nature, and I love to walk out under the trees. That's one of the things that really relaxes me. And then another thing that I do is one of my favorite places to go is either South Jersey into the farmlands or up to Lancaster into the farmlands.
mm,
And I can just spend hours just sitting somewheres and looking at the sky.
mm. I feel
And
like
and
yeah,
that really relieves stress.
I feel like anytime we can get into nature or outside is huge. I know I just went. It doesn't, of course, have to be this extreme, but I went to Vermont recently and I stayed on a farm, and it was like, oh my goodness, is that my happy place, right?
Oh, absolutely.
No signal, just trees and animals. Like it was amazing. So, you know, in summary, when we're looking back at this episode, finding your happy and you're finding the right therapy, first don't be afraid of therapy to begin with, and allow yourself to know that it's like a job interview, right? You have to interview therapists. And in the meantime, and of course, once you get one, it's so important to get yourself outside, go on a walk, go on a bike ride, visit your favorite place, and get
Draw
out in
color.
nature. Yes, be creative. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Ida, for coming on the show. This has really
You're
been a
welcome.
pleasure. So we want to thank our sponsor, Philly Family Life Counseling LLC, for the support for this episode of the Stress Less Show. Philly Family Life Counseling LLC is an in-network provider with most of the insurance companies in the area, in the Philadelphia area. So visit phillyfamilylifecounseling.com to learn more. That concludes this episode of the Stress Less Show, and we'll see you next week.